Hello, good evening, beta. In today's class, we are going to go ahead and we are going to revise some important concepts of microeconomics. First concept. The concept of demand, जिसमें हम बात करते हैं कि what is demand, what is quantity demanded, how is it related to price. So the concept of demand, it was first started by Alfred Marshall in 1890. The concept of demand started by Alfred Marshall in 1890, right? And the name of his book that he wrote to explain this concept of demand, better that book is called as Principles of Economics, right? Secondly, try to understand that demand is called a flow concept. So there are two type of concepts. One is called a flow concept and other is known as a stock concept. When we talk about demand, demand is a flow concept. And in this case, there are two concepts that we need to understand. Change in demand change in quantity demanded. Change in demand is due to factors other than price. जब भी demand change होगी due to income, taste, preferences, तो वो हो गया change in demand. So it is due to factors other than price. Whereas change in quantity demanded, it is due to price. ये price की वजह से. Now, there is again a law of demand. और law of demand क्या बोलते हैं बच्चे? The law of demand says that there is inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. So there is inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. Right, beta? And again, the law of demand, this was also given by Alfred Marshall. Okay. Now, the next thing that you have to try and understand is that the demand, there is something called as demand curve or demand schedule. तो देख लो इसको क्या है बेटा. Demand schedule. It is a table. This table presents the quantity demanded at different prices. तो जैसे मैंने आपको ऐसे कट बोल दिया कि okay, when price is 10, quantity is 8 units, price is 12, quantity is 6 units, price is 14, quantity is 5 units. तो मैंने price and quantity को एक table format में लिख दिया है and this is called as demand schedule. And if I represent this graphically, then it will become a demand curve. So demand curve shows a graphical representation. That when price is 10, the quantity is 8. When price is 12, the quantity is 6. When price is 14, the quantity is 5. I join these points and I get a demand curve. Now, demand curve में there can be individual demand curve and there can be market demand curve. When I talk about individual demand curve, beta, individual demand curve means demand curve of one individual. जैसे for example, demand curve of individual A, individual B, एक individual का demand curve एक point पे. Market demand curve can be attained by, ध्यान से सुनना मेरी बात, it can be attained by horizontal summation. Of individual demand curve. Horizontal summation of individual demand curve. तो अगर हमारे पास ऐसा है demand curve and price is 10 and individual A demands 4 units, price is 10, individual B demands 1 unit, and price is 10 and total market demand will be 5 units. So this is my demand curve of the market. It will always be the case, हमेशा ऐसा ही होगा कि market का demand curve will be flatter than individual demand. हमेशा market demand curve is flatter than the individual demand curves. Am I clear with that point? ठीक है बेटा. Reasons for downward sloping demand curve. The demand curve is downward sloping because of the price effect. बट यूजुअली बुक्स क्या करते हैं ना, वो प्राइस इफेक्ट को इनकम इफेक्ट और सब्स्टिट्यूशन इफेक्ट में डिवाइड कर देते हैं. सो द इनकम इफेक्ट सेज, देखो ध्यान से सुनो मेरी बात, आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट नॉर्मल गुड्स एंड नॉट अबाउट गिफन गुड्स. द इनकम इफेक्ट सेज दैट व्हेन द प्राइस विल डिक्रीज, योर real income will increase. When your real income will increase, your purchasing power will increase. If your purchasing power will increase, then the demand of the good will also increase. Right? So when your price decreases, your real income increases. If your real income increases, you will demand more of the commodity. तो मतलब प्राइस के गिरने पे आपकी डिमांड बढ़नी चाहिए because the real income is increasing. Come to the second beta. That is the substitution effect. The substitution effect says that when your price of good decreases, then relative price of the good, relatively, this goods become cheaper. Example बेटा, जैसे अगर मैं आपको बोलूं कि प्राइस ऑफ गुड एक्स 10 रुपीज है एंड प्राइस ऑफ गुड वाई 20, तो रिलेटिव प्राइस हो जाता है हाफ. और अगर मैं बोल दूं आपको प्राइस ऑफ गुड एक्स 5 हो गया एंड प्राइस ऑफ गुड वाई 20, तो रिलेटिव प्राइस हो जाता है 1/4. 0.25, 0.5. तो रिलेटिव गुड जो है, रिलेटिव प्राइस जो है, इट हैज गॉन डाउन ना. इट मीन्स दैट द डिमांड शुड इंक्रीज. अच्छा, अगर गुड एक्स वुड हैव बीन एक्सपेंसिव ऑल्सो, जैसे गुड एक्स का प्राइस 40 होता और ये 30 पे चला जाता, देन ऑल्सो द सेम कॉन्सेप्ट होल्ड्स. यहां पे रिलेटिव प्राइस होता 40/20, so 2. And here relative price would have been 30/20, so 1.5. So relatively price is going down only, right? Relatively price is going down. relatively good is becoming cheaper. So if good is becoming cheaper, you will increase the demand of the commodity. Right, beta? Point number 3, it is due to the law of diminishing marginal utility. Whenever the consumer has to pay less for a commodity, he must buy more of that commodity. जब भी मुझे किसी भी गुड के लिए कम पे करना है तो मैं उस गुड को ज्यादा कंज्यूम करूंगी. इट इज एन implication of law of diminishing marginal utility. There are some exceptions to the law of demand. Right, beta? Exception number 1. This is called as Veblen effect. Veblen effect, basically, it propounded the concept of conspicuous consumption. किस चीज का concept किया बेटा? So write down. It propounded Veblen. Veblen is an economist and he propounded the concept of conspicuous consumption. What does this mean, beta? It means that according to him, a good is linked to its prestige value. हर गुड की कोई प्रेस्टीज है एंड उससे रिलेटेड प्रेस्टीज जो आती है वो उसके प्राइस के थ्रू आती है. इट कम्स विद इट्स प्राइस, राइट? व्हेन द प्राइस ऑफ द गुड इज मोर, when price is more, that good carries more prestige, right? So according to Veblen, we have the concept of conspicuous consumption, and iska matlab ye hai that the good has a prestige value and prestige is linked to price. The more the price of the good, the more is the prestige associated with that good. Right, beta? Second, Giffen effect. So Giffen good concept was given by Robert Giffen, and उन्होंने बोला कि there are goods which have positive relation with price. So as your price increases, the demand of good increases and vice versa, right? So there is a positive relationship between price and goods demanded, right? Now for this, we can go ahead and we can make an upward sloping demand curve, right beta? And ये upward sloping demand curve के लिए हम यहाँ पे good x ले लेंगे, यहाँ पे price of good x ले लेंगे and good x को एक Giffen good ले लेंगे. ठीक है. Other than this, we must know two other effects. Effect number 1, but this is called as bandwagon effect. Bandwagon effect says that you consume a commodity because other individuals are consuming that commodity. तो मैंने क्या किया? मैंने iPhone खरीदा क्योंकि मेरे friend ने iPhone खरीदा. So individuals demand a commodity because others are demanding the commodity. That is called as bandwagon effect. So individuals demand a commodity because other individuals are demanding. Right, beta? And the next one we have is called as effect 2, which is snob effect. Snob effect basically goes ahead and says that I am going to go ahead and I am going to consume those commodities which show that, I am maybe rich, right? So snob effect is those commodities which are which are consumed because number one of their prestige value, and number two because they are very exclusive in nature. तो इसके लिए ज्यादातर वर्ड यूज किया जाता है exclusive in nature. Like a rare painting जिसके लिए auction चल रहा है and people want to pay more and more for that painting, right? So that will be the snob effect. Now, but many times students are confused between Giffen goods versus inferior goods. Try to understand the difference between them. Giffen good, they don't obey the law of demand. तो यहाँ पे जब price बढ़ता है तो demand बढ़ जाती है. But inferior goods obey the law of demand. तो यहाँ पे जब price बढ़ता है तो demand good की गिरती है. They obey the law of demand. Therefore, the demand curve of Giffen good, it is upward sloping. But the demand curve of inferior goods, that is negatively sloped. Right? Now, for Giffen good or for inferior good, you need to understand that both of them, however, they have negative relation with price, with income. Money, when the income will increase, the demand of the good will decrease. Income will increase, the demand of the good will decrease. Right? So these are some things that you need to go ahead and remember. Okay. Now, let us go ahead and let us talk about the factors that affect the demand. Factor number one. This is taste and preferences. In taste and preferences, the relationship with demand is positive. मतलब अगर taste बढ़ेगा एक good के लिए तो आप उसकी demand बढ़ाओगे ना. So in taste and preference, the relation with demand is positive. Second is income. With income, the relation is positive. As income increases, the demand will increase. The third is the different kind of, we can say, related goods. In related goods, there are two kind of goods, beta. पहला हो गए substitutes और दूसरे हो गए complements. Substitute good के साथ we have positive relationship. तो price of tea बढ़ेगा तो demand of coffee बढ़ेगी. And complements के साथ we have negative relation. Price of sugar बढ़ेगा तो demand of tea घटेगी. Right? Then we have advertising. With advertising, we have positive relationship. And then we have future expectation about price. ध्यान से सुनो बच्चे. If I expect the future price to increase, अगर मुझे लग रहा है कि period T+1 में price बढ़ने वाला है और मतलब जैसे अगर मुझे लग रहा है कि एक शेयर प्राइस कल बढ़ने वाला है तो मैं उसकी डिमांड आज बढ़ा दूंगी. सो इफ आई थिंक दैट द प्राइस इन द फ्यूचर इज इंक्रीजिंग, जैसे कितनी बार होता है ना दैट द गवर्नमेंट अनाउंसेस दैट नेक्स्ट मंथ पेट्रोल विल बी एक्सपेंसिव, तो लोग जाके एक बारी के लिए अपना टैंक रिफिल करवा लेते हैं, राइट? सो इफ आई एक्सपेक्ट प्राइस टू इंक्रीज इन द फ्यूचर, I will increase my demand in period T today. So there is a positive relationship. There is a positive relationship. ठीक है जी. अच्छा, एक बात समझो सर, that whenever we write the demand function, so we always say that demand is a function of price. But there is also something which is known as inverse demand function. In inverse demand function, we make price a function of demand. तो अगर हम ऐसे लिख रहे हैं, if we are writing reverse, if we are saying price as a function of demand, then that is called as inverse demand function. But there are two kind of goods again. One is called as durable good, and one is called as a perishable good. ड्यूरेबल गुड्स वो गुड्स हैं जो स्टोर कर सकते हैं, जैसे फ्रिज, टीवी एक्सेट्रा. पेरिशेबल गुड्स लाइक फ्रूट्स, वेजिटेबल्स, वो खराब हो जाते हैं, उनको हम स्टोर नहीं कर सकते. तो दोज गुड्स विच कैन बी स्टोर्ड, उनके प्राइस फ्लक्चुएट नहीं करते हैं, बिकॉज यू कैन स्टोर देम एंड जब भी प्राइस सस्ता हो, यू विल परचेज देम एंड यू विल कंज्यूम देम फॉर अ वेरी लॉन्ग पीरियड ऑफ टाइम. तो बार बार प्राइस ऊपर नीचे करके कुछ फायदा नहीं होता है. सो दीज goods are those goods which have non-volatile price. But perishable goods वो goods हैं which are volatile in nature. So these goods are those goods which are having volatile prices. Prices are volatile. ठीक है. Now, beta, next we have the concept of derived demand. Right? But a derived demand, माने the demand is getting derived out of some other good. So derived demand is that demand which is used to produce some other kind of good. Just for example, demand for labor. I am demanding labor and using labor to produce good X, and then good X is being used further. So those goods which derive their demand out of other good. Labor की demand आ रही है किसी एक good X को produce करने के लिए, जिसके demand consumer कर रहे हैं. तो जब consumer good X के demand बढ़ाएंगे, तो labor की demand बढ़ेगी. That is why it is called as derived demand. Right? Now we talk about elasticity of demand. But elasticity of demand, again, this concept was given by Marshall. Right? और इसके बहुत सारे फॉर्मूलाज हैं, तो बेसिक पहले समझ लेते हैं. इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ डिमांड बताता है परसेंटेज चेंज इन क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड ड्यू टू परसेंटेज चेंज इन प्राइस. इसी इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ डिमांड को वी कैन राइट इट एज dq by dp into p by q. Right? Same elasticity of demand, we can go ahead and we can write this as dq by q upon dp by p. Right? This can also be written as change in quantity due to change in price by initial price into initial quantity. Now, the more flatter the demand curve, the more the elasticity. The more flatter the demand curve, the more the elasticity. तो ये समझने की कोशिश करो कि अगर मेरा डिमांड कर्व ऐसा है तो इलास्टिसिटी हो जाती है 0, और अगर डिमांड कर्व ऐसा है तो इलास्टिसिटी हो जाती है इंफिनिटी. बट अगर डिमांड कर्व फ्लैट है, इलास्टिसिटी मोर देन 1, और अगर डिमांड कर्व स्टीप है, तो इलास्टिसिटी लेस देन 1. एंड for rectangular hyperbola, elasticity of demand is, right? For rectangular hyperbola, elasticity of demand is 1. Then we have the concept of point elasticity. एक linear curve, एक linear line, it has different elasticities at different points, right? And that is known as point elasticity. Point elasticity formula, it is but a lower segment divided by upper segment, right beta? So to give you an example, अगर मैं ऐसे बोलूं और यहां मैं क्वांटिटी ले लूं और यहां प्राइस, और here exactly I am taking the center point, right? Then at this center point the elasticity of demand will be 1, right बेटा? क्योंकि लोअर एंड अपर सेगमेंट दोनों इक्वल है, जितना अपर सेगमेंट है और जितना लोअर सेगमेंट है, बोथ ऑफ देम आर एग्जैक्टली इक्वल टू ईच अदर, राइट बेटा? तो सिंस बोथ ऑफ देम आर इक्वल, तो आई विल गेट दिस पॉइंट. नाउ ट्राई टू सी हियर, बेटा हियर द लोअर सेगमेंट इज नॉट देयर, तो इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ डिमांड इज 0. Here elasticity of demand पूरा ही lower segment है, divided by 0, there is no upper segment, so elasticity of demand is infinity. In this region it is more than 1, in this region it is less than 1. Then we have something which is known as the total expenditure method. According to, okay, अच्छा, पहले total expenditure method is also given by Marshall beta, right? And according to total expenditure method, if price and quantity, they go ahead in such a way that the expenditure is constant, price decrease हो या increase हो, पर जो expenditure है, total expenditure which is price into quantity या total revenue, अगर वो constant है, then the elasticity will be 1. Giving you an example, price 10, quantity 9, प्राइस गिर के 9 हुआ और क्वांटिटी 10 पे चली गई, तो टोटल एक्सपेंडिचर इज कांस्टेंट एट 90, टोटल एक्सपेंडिचर इज अनचेंज्ड. देन यू विल हैव द इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ डिमांड एज 1. बेटा सेकंड पार्ट, when price increases total expenditure increases, price decreases total expenditure decreases, they move in the same direction, right? Price decrease हुआ, total expenditure decrease हो गया, price increase हुआ, total expenditure increase हो गया, then your elasticity of demand, it is less than 1. To take an example beta, price is 10, quantity is 9, total expenditure is say 90, price decreases to 9, quantity increases to 9.1, total expenditure, let me not take decimals here, price decreases to 7, quantity increases to 10, total expenditure goes to 70. So if you notice, the price has decreased and the total expenditure has also decreased. If this is the case, right, then we can go ahead and say that the elasticity will be less than 1. But to take another example यहाँ पे, अगर मैं इसको generally calculate करूं, तो जैसे अगर ये point A है और point B, तो अगर मैं point A to B जाऊं, तो elasticity कैसे calculate होगी? Change in quantity due to change in price into P by Q. तो change in quantity आ गया बेटा 10 minus 9, change in price हो गया 7 minus 10 into initial price by initial quantity. तो 10 by 9. तो बेटा this will be 1 minus 3, 10 by 9. So this will be minus 10 by 27, clearly less than 1. अगर मैं absolute value में देखूं, always check in absolute value. It is less than 1. तो ये हो गया हमारा inelastic demand. Take the third case. When price increases, quantity का पता नहीं, it will decrease of course, but we are looking at total revenue. Total revenue decreases. Price decreases, total revenue increases. They move in opposite direction. Then we will say elasticity of demand is more than 1. Elasticity of demand is more than 1. Clear baat? Now we have the concept of income elasticity. But income elasticity tells us percentage change in quantity due to percentage change in income. तो इसको हम लिख सकते हैं change in quantity by change in income into income by quantity. Right? Try to understand that for normal goods, the income elasticity is positive. For inferior goods, the income elasticity is negative. For luxury goods, the income elasticity is more than 1. And for necessity goods, the income elasticity is between 0 and 1. A luxury it is greater than 1 and necessities it is between 0 and 1. तो ये चार हमें elasticities remember करनी है. For normal good positive, for inferior good negative, for luxury goods greater than 1 and for necessity goods less than 1. Right beta? ठीक है. Now try to also understand that there is something which is called as an angel curve. ये angel curve क्या बताता है? The relation between income and quantity. कि कितनी इनकम पे हम कितने यूनिट्स को डिमांड कर रहे हैं. The relation between income and quantity that is given by angel curve. Right beta? Then we have something which is known as cross elasticity, cross price elasticity. But a cross price elasticity, it tells us the percentage change in quantity of one good due to percentage change in price of the other. तो जब हमने बोला कि what is the quantity change of good X due to price of good Y, तो इसको हम बोल देते हैं cross elasticity. This is called as cross elasticity. Again कुछ rules हैं बेटा. If the cross elasticity is positive, मतलब एक के प्राइस बढ़ने पे दूसरे का क्वांटिटी बढ़ रहा है, then we have substitute goods. If the cross elasticity is negative, then we have complement goods. And if there is no cross elasticity, मतलब cross elasticity zero है, then we have unrelated goods. Right बेटा? So this is the concept of elasticity. इसी में एक और चीज आ जाती है which is called as elasticity of substitution. The elasticity of substitution is change in the quantity of good X upon quantity of good Y upon initial quantity of good X by initial quantity of good Y into MRS between quantity of good X and Y upon percentage change in MRS of quantity of good X. एक आसान तरीका है इसको समझने का. DLN Y by X upon DLN MRS. When we write like this, then it is nothing but it is your MR MRS का elasticity of substitution between the two goods, right? Now we need to know the numbers also. So just remember that for perfect substitutes, ये जो elasticity of substitution होता है, that is basically 0. You cannot it is infinity, sorry. Infinite substitution is possible. And for complements, it is 0. Complements में आप क्योंकि दोनों goods को एक साथ use कर रहे हो, you cannot substitute one good for another, and that is why the elasticity of substitution becomes 0. But for substitutes, the elasticity of substitution is infinite. Beta, I am giving you some homework questions. Question number 1. You're given that the price is 16 minus Q minus 0.5 Q square, and find price elasticity when Q is 4. Find price elasticity when Q is 4. Okay. Okay, beta. One more question, please write down. You are given P is equal to 10 minus 2x minus 0.5 x square. Find price elasticity when Q is, sorry, here x le lete hain, when x is 2. So you need to go ahead and give me the price elasticity in these two examples. Okay, beta. Thank you.